So for a corset, for example, if you're making a corset, it's advisable to mark it equally. That's placing the midpoint on the center dart like so, then mark all the way to your left and mark all the way to the right. Okay. Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Sew with Marek YouTube channel. So in today's video, I want to show you how you can do underbust contouring for a dress. Maybe you want to make a bustier, for example. So you want to include a underbust contouring using your basic bodies. Okay, this is the basic pattern that we drafted from our basic class. If you've not seen that video, kindly click the link in the description. I'll drop the link in the description box so you can watch it. It's very important to know the tips and the tricks that we applied to get this. Okay, so we are going to do an underbust contouring for a bustier. Let's just say a normal basic bustier, or for a dress that has the bust contoured. So let's see how to go about that. So the first thing I'm going to do is this. Now, if you check our length from the shoulder, the armhole, the bust, the waist length, the full length, you can see we don't have the underbust line included. So if you want to do an underbust contouring, you have to include your underbust line. So for me, the underbust line for the measurement I'm working with is 14.5 inches. 14.5 inches. So I'm going to measure all the way from my shoulder line. You're going to find your 14.5 inches. So you include that to your basic. Now, if you don't want to alter your basic measurement, okay? If you don't want to alter your basic pattern, rather, it is advisable you cut out, you transfer to another pattern before you continue. This is just the best so that you can always use that basic pattern for every other design that you may want to work with. So I even advise that you draft your basic pattern on a cardboard sheet because it's thicker than the brown paper. But anyone can still go as long as you can keep it in place at all times, and you keep it safe, let it not tear and the rest. All right. So I'm going to square up my underbust line now. So I've found my underbust line. I'm going to square that. Let's use the red pen so you know the difference on what we're doing here. So you know the difference. So I just make use of the red pen. I hope you can see that. Seems like it's fading. Okay. So now this is my underbust measurement. Now remember that this line is our bust line. This center line here, this center dart line is our bust span line, right? So the next thing you're going to do is just make sure you take note of that this center line is our bust dart line. That's just what I want you to know. So next thing I'll do is on this underbust. Now on your client, you must have taken the underbust measurement. Now for my client, the underbust measurement is 35 divided by 4, right? So 35 divided by 4 is 8¾ 8¾ is what I have. So on that underbust line, you're going to mark 8¾ which is around this point. Okay, so the excess that is left here is 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches. So I'm going to divide that measurement. Now it depends on what you're working with. If you're working with a princess style line, you may not want to add more dart intake to this center front area. So you can decide to take all the measurement to your side. That's to the side seam line. Okay, because this is our side and this is the center, right? So you can decide to take all the measurements, taking note of the center. That's why I showed you the center of the dart, which is the bust span line. Okay, from that bust span line, you're going to measure all the way out to find your 1.5 inches, like this. So if I want all my dart to be taken to the side, this is what I will do. But if you want to divide the dart, you can still share it and say, okay, let me give 1/2 inch to the center front and let me give 1 inch to the sides. It comes here, right? And you can decide to share it equally by marking 3/4 to this point and 3/4 to this other point, which will become this point and this point. So you can see you can actually work around that measurement. You can do whatever you want with that. You only have to take note of what exactly you want to get. So for a corset, for example, if you're making a corset, it's advisable to mark it equally. That's placing the midpoint on the center dart like so, then mark all the way to your left and mark all the way to the right. Okay, so what exactly are we making here? What exactly are we making? I'm making, let's transform this whole thing to a princess style line. Okay, let's make a princess style line of the shoulder dart, princess style line. So therefore I can decide to mark it equally, or I can decide to do a princess seam style line. So whichever I want to do. Okay, so if I'm making a princess seam style line, it's just for you to make a choice. Any choice you make will work very well. So I can decide to make a choice of marking 1/2 inch. I think that's the choice I want to make now. I'll mark 1/2 inch here, and I'm going to mark the remaining 1 inch to my side seam line. That's this area. So you take note of the markings that you've made because you're going to connect this point. So at this time now, I am going to connect all the way to my bust line because I want to cut through. This pattern, I want to cut through it. So you're going to mark all the way like this. Now you have this point here. So you can decide to use the curve area of your ruler. Okay, it's more advisable to use the curve area. So if you use your straight line, you're going to blend that out later. Okay, make sure you blend it out. Okay, I can use the curve for this point too. So you can see the difference, a little bit difference that we have there, right? So when you're done with this, you connect this back to your waistline dart. Connect this back to your waistline dart like so. And blend. Always remember to blend, very, very important. So at this point, I've done my underbust contouring for this dress. So now, do you know you can actually work with this on your basic? Like, you want to make a dress that you're not cutting through. Yes, if you're making a dress you're not cutting through, that means as you sew, you're going to make sure you take in this dart and it will be well contoured to show the bust area like so. So by the time you sew this dart all the way in like this, you're going to have that. But in that case, you're going to be, instead of sharing one side to be more than the other, you're going to make it equal. You make the darts equal. So if I'm taking an equal dart, that means my markings my cut should start from here connecting and here connecting, then it will be equal, so that when I take in the seam allowance like so, when I take in the dart like so, when I sew like so, you're going to have something all contoured out. See the bust, under bust, well shaping out to the bust area.